2013. 2014 January is when my colleague got killed. And then that's when I decided that South Africa was not for me. This is when I came back here. I must also tell you that even in Canada, the Canadian government is very much aware of what Rwanda is capable of. So even here, I'm told to always be careful.
When you were with the Rwandan government, were you aware of them chasing exiles at that time?
I used to hear things I heard of people. You have whispers here, whispers there. You know, either I was in denial, or I thought that there was a bigger purpose that we must build. But looking back now, they were all along bad signs. But those bad signs never really became crystal clear until 2010. Because 2010, all hell broke loose in Rwanda. Those elections of 2010 brought the ugliness out. You know, opposition parties imprisoned, leaders imprisoned, one beheaded, exiled, media editors, journalists killed, fled, and so on. So it all came together in that year. The assassination attempts outside, it just became too much. Even if you wanted, you could not hide anywhere from what was happening then. And in that sense, that I'm glad that I left in time, because it wasn't that extreme in my time.
What prompted you to recently speak before Congress like you did?
Yeah, thank you. I was motivated by three things. Let me begin with one. I wanted to put a message to the American taxpayer, to the American government, that A, they have been great supporters of Rwandan people since 1994, since genocide. Because the United States is the biggest donor to Rwanda. U.S. gives Rwanda every year in the neighborhood of $110 million. And that money goes to improving health systems, it goes to economic development, it goes to education, things like that. So we appreciate, and even I never change, even now I don't say that the United States should stop. No, I say United States should keep supporting Rwandan people. But related to that, though, is that apart from that aid that helps Rwandans, there is also aid that builds Rwandan security agencies. So U.S. Trains, equips, and provides logistics to the Rwandan military, especially in peacekeeping operations. Here is what I was trying to share with the U.S. Congress and American people, and I thank the Congress for giving me that opportunity, is that, look, we can't arm a government that kills people, that destabilizes neighbors. So while U.S. should go on and support health, it should not support the very organs that are a means of repression. So that was my one message. The other message was that the U.S., apart from its relationship with Rwanda in the way that I just described, it has, over these years, given a kind of diplomatic cover for Rwanda. You see, whenever Rwanda runs into trouble, the U.S. uses its diplomatic muscle to save Kagame. I'll give you two examples. In 2010, the United Nations came up with a report about the atrocities that happened in Congo since Rwanda invaded more than 3 times. The report showed that over 5 million people in Congo have died as a result of these interventions, whether direct killings or whether these social upheavals that lead people to lose their incomes and stuff. That report said that actually if Kagame can be indicted for genocide. You know what Kagame did? Kagame said, well, if the UN goes on with this report and makes this noise, I'm going to pull out my peacekeeping forces everywhere. So, Rwanda has become the fifth largest peacekeeping force, and it's the second largest in Africa. So when he threatened to remove his soldiers from peacekeeping, the US and the UN went to beg him not to do it. And so that report was shelved. That's one example. There was another example. There was a lawsuit against Kagame in the US. The Obama administration actually went to court to argue for immunity for Kagame from the lawsuit. So the U.S. actually ended up giving a foreign leader, Kagame, immunity that the same country, U.S., denied its own president back with Bill Clinton. So we are arguing, therefore, that really the U.S. must not continue to shield Kagame for being held accountable for his actions out there.
One of the last questions I have for you is, can you speak to the relationship that Susan Rice of the United States government, former ambassador, had with the Rwandan government?
I think Susan Rice, we should not isolate her. I think it's the whole Bill Clinton administration. They had this staff that were in charge of Africa and development. In 1994, they were part of the group that argued against the international community's involvement in stopping genocide in Rwanda. So after genocide, then this same group, from Bill Clinton downwards to the name you mentioned and his whole team, there has always been this guilt that they did not intervene. So I think then they went overboard. They have now gone, they became like, they overcompensated, advocating for Rwanda in a good way, but also in bad cases, where basically they gave him a blanket benefit of the doubt. This is not a good thing. I think American administration, the country of the only superpower, they can't afford basically to kind of give anyone blind support like this. I'm sure up to now we wonder, why do people like even Bill Clinton keep supporting Kagame now when clearly Kagame has turned out not to be what Clinton had called the new breed of African leaders that are for democracy and for development. Kagame and his people who were defined like that by Clinton, they didn't actually become the new breed of African leaders. They became a new breed of African dictators. That's how I would put it.
It looks very similar to the relationship that the Clintons have with the Martelly government in Haiti and the previous, or I should say prior governments in Haiti after it overthrew Aristide.
That's right. And in Ethiopia and things, there are many places like that, yeah.
Would you equate Kagame's influence on Africa and his relationship with colonial powers to the relationship with his people and the relationship that Mobutu had with the colonial powers? Would you relate those two world leaders?
You see, Mobutu, of course, as we know, he was part of that machinery supported by the West in removing Patrice Lumumba. And he was a terrible, terrible dictator that was sustained for more than 2 decades. And of course, he caused misery on Congolese people for all those years. And of course, Congo is a very rich country with minerals, so there was a very strategic interest by the West in Congo. The West was prepared to look the other way and allow Mobutu a free hand, so long as he went along. He didn't deny them access to those mineral wealth. Now, Kagame, I see him somewhat differently. First of all, Rwanda is not Congo. Rwanda is a small country with very little to offer anybody. In fact, what it has offered is that because Congo, after Mobutu fell, it became worse, it became unstable, chaotic. So Rwanda became like the entry point into Congo. So Rwanda began to milk its presence at the border. So Rwanda kind of presented itself as this stable, peaceful country next door to chaotic Congo. So it milked that. If you like, it became a middleman. The middleman, though, I think has outplayed his hand. He did. Because he was also looting Congo, causing chaos, making Eastern Congo unstable. And then he went overboard. You remember that in 2012, even U.S. could no longer close its eyes on Kagame's misadventures in Congo. That's when actually, led by the U.S., donor countries suspended aid to Rwanda as a punishment for continual interference in Congo. At that time, Kagame was supporting this group known as M23. So what am I saying? Rwanda, we give Kagame credit. He has manipulated his way into being a middleman, but this middleman has outplayed his hand. You can even see why I would say he has outplayed his hand. In that same hearing that you mentioned, in the hearing, you noticed that there were 2 State Department officials explaining the U.S.-Rwanda relations. Under the drilling by Congressman Smith and the ranking member, Karen Smith, those State Department officials acknowledged that they are troubled by Kagame, especially the killings he promotes outside Rwanda. So usually U.S. would not go that far. That's why we must keep pushing so that indeed the fact that this middleman has overplayed his hand becomes more evident and that he loses more and more support and loses more friends. Because unlike in Congo, Rwanda is not indispensable. Rwanda is nothing. It's not Congo. It has nothing to offer.
What is it that the everyday person can do? The person that doesn't work for the government of the United States, what is it that they can do to aid in the struggle of the Rwandan people against this tyrant?
Well, but American people can do a lot. And I say, again, I thank the American people for the help that they give Rwanda, the aid, the big aid.